And so you get a business cycle recession, a normal business cycle recession, and government spending goes up, economy recovers. The Keynesians say, it's because government spending went up. Correlation is causation. And that's garbage. Recovery happened because businessmen got their act together. They changed things, they changed prices, they fixed things, and we recovered. The government did do some spending, they did provide a safety net, but that wasn't the reason we had the recovery. But that is the lesson that every professor at Princeton and Yale and Harvard and Chicago and, yada yada learned. And that's where their models are. And that's when I was looking at Senator Portman, who was at OMB, and I said, and that's why your guys at OMB are projecting 4 and 5% growth towards the middle of this decade, because that's what your models say they should be doing, and they are wrong. Because we're not in a business cycle recession. We're in a deleveraging recession, and that is a fundamentally different world. The debt supercycle. What do I mean when I talk about the end of the debt supercycle? It's when countries run up against the end of their borrowing. Now, Martin Barnes, bank credit analyst, were really, instrumental in talking about this in the 70s and 80s. Richard Fisher developed the core idea back in the 30s. But people borrow more and more and more until they can't. They run to the end. And it's not just a U.S. problem. Now look at one country after another. This is from the Bank of International Settlements. And what they've done is they've said, here's where debt to GDP will go if you don't do anything. By the way, you'll notice that the United States is nowhere near the worst shape. There are some other countries that are in deep kimchi. The middle line is where it would go if you make gradual adjustments. And even with gradual adjustments that you would hope to be able to kind of politically put together, most countries run off the end of the cliff. There's only been one country in the history of the world that has had its debt to GDP go over 150% without defaulting, without a crisis ensuing. And that was Britain at the height of its empire, when they could sell perpetual bonds, so they never had to redeem them, and they only had to pay 2 or 3%. And they eventually worked out of that. That's the one example. Everybody else, you hit the wall. Hundreds of times. Sovereign countries default. That's the lesson of history.